welcome to another episode of Shooting
the Shit with Rachael
and Neil Young. So we're talking all things real estate photography business growth, mindset, and getting it done. Here come your favorite true entrepreneurs, Rachael and Neil Young, shooting the shit.
I have a ferret on the podcast. Like if we're kind of in a slump, like what kind of things do you do?
Talking about a boob light.
Straddling a power line.
Nice photo.
Ooh, I need that.
I'm like red right now because I'm embarrassed. I go like this. I love it.
Come in.
Sure, use your podcast voice.
And over here, I'm pitting out.
Drone's like flipping to the ground.
That's a great callback.
Chit-chatting.
Is that what you call that?
Hey!
Hey!
So today we're doing something special. I'm going to do a little segment here called Ask a Boss. So if you know anything about our podcast, or if you don't, I guess I should explain it a little bit. Rachel and I are both entrepreneurs and we both run our own businesses, but we're at two kind of different places. Rachel's been at this 6 years already and has a big team and everything, whereas I'm going on heading towards year 2, and I am just myself trying to head in that same direction while I'll eventually have a team and working on trying to get my first new hire and stuff like this. And there's a lot of complexities that come with switching from just you and you do whatever you feel like to trying to grow a team and trying to teach them to do what you do. And so I figured today we could ask Rachael the questions in a little bit we're calling Ask a Boss. She's a boss. So I'm going to ask Rachael because she is a boss. And I mean that in all positive ways, a boss. And she's literally a boss. So I've got a bunch of questions about kind of growing the biz, Rach. Okay. All right.
Awesome.
Y'all, are you ready for this?
Shoot.
So I've tried to hire a couple people to be a shooter, basically. And I've, started them out doing assistant stuff, and then with the goal that they would progress to eventually shoot as well and follow me along and stuff like that. But I've struggled with it. I'm on the third try of that right now. So I want to know if you got any pointers how many people do you have that you've hired so far?
I don't know, a lot. I've got, let's see. 1, 2, 3. I think like 5 active shooters and 2 in training, a virtual assistant and an in-person assistant and an admin, and a brand manager and a social media manager and an accountant. I have a lot. I have the whole team now. And this has come about since 2020. So it's been pretty rapid growth, but definitely necessary.
Yeah. So you've been through the fires and come out with a team. So that's cool. Yeah. So my question is, maybe and hopefully this will be helpful for other people that are in the same stage as me trying to do the same thing, but I'm wondering if you come across any consistencies things you could look for hiring somebody that might be, things that help if this might be somebody who might stick. Because the hardest thing about it is putting all that effort in, training them, bringing along, paying them for coming and doing things, and then they just kind of fade off and then you got to start all over. So any pointers for what to look for somebody who might last? Have that potential?
Yes. So I have hired people on that have had real estate photography experience in the past. And I have hired people on that have 0 experience in real estate photography and trained them from the ground up. Okay. So I'm going to tell you right off the bat, obviously it's easier when they have experience in real estate photography, right? I mean, but they come with bad habits or, shooting style that maybe you don't prefer. So you have to get them to change their style. So there's, 2 sides to it. With a brand new person, you get to mold them into whatever you want. With someone with experience, you have to kind of shift their thinking and get them to shoot in your style. So, and they might have their own business shooting and they shoot in one style and then they have to learn your style. I have one guy that works for a couple companies and me and himself, and he has to know the different styles for all of us. And when I was training him, he was telling me, he's like, it's difficult because every company has a different style, how they train and how they shoot. So I'm like, well, good on you for learning it all and remembering it. Like that would be tough, Yeah. So I think the main thing, the way that I do it, I check them out on social media, right? I go to their social media, see what they're doing and what level they're at now. I can train them to shoot in my style, not a problem. But that's important. After I check them out on social media, I will set up a Zoom call with them or an in-person meeting or a phone call. So I want to see the person. I've seen them, hopefully they have pictures of themselves on social media, but they don't always have photos of themselves. Most photographers don't post photos of themselves. So it's kind of hard. And it's just to make sure they have a professional appearance. I don't want someone that's a slob showing up to one of my jobs. Like, I need to make sure that they're kind of pulled together. They carry themselves well, they're professional, all of that stuff. So I'll have either a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting, or invite them out to a shoot with me and then see how we jive and, how I like their personality and whatnot. And yeah, I think it's really important that their values and their outlook on the business kind of align with yours. So for me, when I train shooters, I'm an open book. I'm teaching them not only how to shoot, but I'm opening up about all the aspects of my business and helping them. So they have their own business that they're trying to grow, and I am mentoring them in their own business along with teaching them how to shoot. And for me, it's a win-win. It's like, I want them to become strong entrepreneurs, to be able to grow their business and become better shooters. And, eventually they're going to get to the point where they're too busy to shoot for me. That might take 6 months. That might take 6 years, it just depends on the person. And every shooter has different goals. Like, not every photographer wants to do this business full time. A lot of them want to just shoot for someone else and have them run all the business side of it and not have to deal with it, and then go home and upload and be done, which is great. That's what I'm really looking for. Honestly, it's great to have someone that really wants to dedicate a few days a week to working for me, so they're available to me.
I think that's interesting. You're going into it with them, not trying to find a way to lock them into your business. You're more have the expectation that they're going to fly at some point, right?
Right. And if they do fly, I have done an incredible job of training and mentoring this person. We've built up a business relationship to where I know that if I ever have a need, if I have a client that I need photos done for and we can't handle it, I can call that photographer and say, hey, can you handle so-and-so? And I know they've got a legit business. They're doing it, and not to mention just the relationships and that business relationship that you build with them. It's really nice to have someone that you can call and bounce ideas off of, or talk shop. Like Neil, you and I mean, we live on opposite coasts, so there's no competition or anything. So it's even better. But it's so nice to just, if I have any business question or anything, I can call you and say, Neil, what do you think about this? Like, how should I handle this? So it's building that camaraderie and building that, that team where everybody's working together with the common goal of making everyone better. I think the real estate photography industry needs to raise the bar. We need to be better as a whole. So I'm hoping that I can inspire others and lift them up and get them to be better.
Rachel, you never fail to amaze. Seriously, what a fantastic, positive attitude you have. Because I'm like, how can I make them stay? Do I have to worry about them signing not a non-disclosure, a no compete and stuff like this and all this? But I love that. Just, hey, you know what? You're training them. You're doing good for them. It's good for you in the time being while it lasts. And eventually, you know what? You can't really stop them from going to do their own thing. They're going to do it or they're not. And if they do, good on them. You did your part, and it's good mojo all around. That's genius. I love that.
Exactly. And if they come with you on this little wave and they ride the wave with you, and you lift each other up and you inspire each other and motivate each other, like, it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah. So, it's all good stuff. I really love that attitude and try to embrace that as well. But I just love your angle on that. That's awesome. I think a lot of people like hearing that too. And I think you're right too, right? You're only doing good by training these people to raise the bar in real estate, to not be trying to price themselves so low to just compete, but to put out good work, do all good things business wise. And it's only good for all of us in the business. That's awesome. I love that. That's cool.
Now, don't get me wrong. I do have them sign, a contract that says you can't coach my clients and you can't advertise and you can't tag my clients. And I lay that down right away. Almost first conversation, I address that, because that is always a question that they ask me. They're always like, well, what about, like, I'm advertising in the same city as you, so what if I advertise to your client? I'm like, as long as you don't do it on purpose, like, it's fine. The relationships that I've built with my clients, I feel confident that they're going to stay with me because I provide excellent service, you know, and we do a good job. So, and if they want to go try someone new, like, they are a free agent. They can go anywhere they want. They don't have to stick with me,
And so you've ironed that out, though. You've ironed out a structure of, hey, just so you know, this is what's kosher and this isn't what isn't. This is what isn't kosher. And that leads to one of my other questions too, which is, it's a whole different world when you're setting your own rules up for yourself, and you can make a decision on the fly for yourself, whatever you want to do for a certain instance scenario that you're in. But when it comes to now you want to hire somebody else to join the team, you really have got to iron it out what is okay and what's not okay, because otherwise you're leaving too many variables for them to fail for themselves or for you, for the whole team. And so I know being an employee, one of the worst things about being an employee is if you have management that doesn't give you a structure that you know what is okay and what isn't okay, because then you set yourself up to fail, and you get in a position where you don't know what your boss wants or doesn't want. And that's not, you're not set up for success and not to feel empowered to do the right thing either. Mm-hmm. So one of my questions is along those lines. Up to this date, I've shot whatever angles I felt like shooting, and I still want to keep that. I don't want to count angles. I know a lot of photographers do it, but that way it's just not how I've branded myself. I would like to continue to say I shoot the angles that I think are appropriate, that are highlighting the property appropriately. But it's a harder thing for me now that I'm training somebody else to make sure that, and especially since we're paying for editing and stuff like that, that they don't come back, send 150 edits, out that's going to cost me $150, and there goes all of our money we've made on the shoot. But how do you go about something simple like that, for an example, structuring for them? Hey, when you go on a shoot, yes, you want to cover all the bases, but if it's a huge house, they can only use 40 images, so we don't want 150 images they have to edit. How do you structure that to keep it condensed, but still keep the business goal of showing off all the important stuff in a house?
Right. Okay. So I take them out, and I have a specific amount of shots I want for each room. And there's like a minimum for each room, I would say. So front of the house, 2 to 3 angles, get a front porch shot, get it in the front door shot. And then we do one of basic bedrooms. So if it's a kid's bedroom, all the spare bedrooms are just usually one shot. Unless it's worthy of a second shot. Sometimes it's got a killer closet, and I'm like, okay, do one in this way to show the bed and show the window, go to the other side of the room, open that closet and shoot the other way and show that it has a California closet system built in, right? And then bathrooms is usually one. The master bedroom, 2 to 3 angles. Master bathroom, like shoot it to cover it. Sometimes it's got, a sink on one side, a bathtub on the other, and then a shower on the other side. So it takes 3 shots to shoot it.
Yeah.
So, and I'm okay with that. Laundry room, just 1. Kitchen, 4 angles and maybe 2 detail shots. We want to show off the stove, and I want to do a single point perspective if I can. That's more of a strong composition, like gives me a high end, like well composed image of the kitchen using some symmetry or something. And then the living room, it's 3 to 4 images of the living room. And then the kitchen or the dining room is, I don't know, 1 or 2, sometimes 3, depending on, the adjoining rooms. And then the backyard is usually 4 to 5 angles. So with that said, we don't put a limit on the amount of photos we deliver to our clients. We just shoot to cover the space. Yeah. So with that whole thing that I just explained with how many angles we do, that's about usually at least 40 images. And I tell them, if you take 2 angles and you're not sure, just send me a text message with a picture of both angles, either on site or when you get home, and I'll tell you which one is good, like which one to keep and which one to toss. So that eliminates any confusion. Yeah. And that's also a teaching moment for me to explain why this one is stronger versus that one.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing for me even to do for myself to limit the number of shots that I take, because I'm like, ooh, well, I also like this shot that has the windows in the closet as well, so maybe I'll get that one too. And so I'm going on site trying to train somebody, going, all right, how can I narrow this down for him? Because I don't want him to come back with 4 angles of every room.
I trained a guy today. He came to 3 shoots with me, and it's hard because you're there, and I'm like, okay, well, each house is different.
Yeah.
No 2 houses are the same unless it's a split level. We all shot a million of those. I don't know about where you live, but we got split levels.
Oh yeah, tons.
So, it's like I get there and I'm like, okay, 4 angles of the kitchen. And I'm like, well, maybe do 2 or 3 more because this is a really cool kitchen, So yeah. I think it's kind of a game where you just, when they start out, they're going to shoot more than they should. So what I do for my pay structure, I pay them a set of like a percentage. That's a little bit lower in the beginning for the first 6 months.
Okay.
And then once they're trained up and well, I give them a 10% raise. And then I figure that way, the extra shots that they're going to shoot and the extra
Yeah.
editing I'm going to pay is going to cover that difference right there. So
That's smart. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah. And that's a big part of it, right? Because the whole point of hiring them is to make money for you. And if they're overshooting, then what you're getting out of it is going to drop dramatically if they're just, all those editing fees and stuff like that. So that's cool. Now, I had a question for you. So one of the big pains that I currently have that I'm starting to feel more and more the more I do more shoots is dealing with a lot of the more office work stuff, the stuff that isn't my talent, right?
mm,
So the delivering of the files, the stuff that you could hire somebody, an admin, a virtual assistant, physical assistant to do. But there's all these different things now that there are virtual assistants, or, you have admins, or you have somebody who might physically come and be an assistant and do things. What are some of the differences? Since I know you've have some of these things or all of them and experimented with them. What do you think to getting some of that sort of office work, whatever you want to call it, off of your plate? What would you recommend as the first hire? Is it a virtual assistant? Is it a real assistant? What do you think? And what might be some of the trade-offs be?
I think it depends on your budget. So obviously, a virtual assistant is working from the Philippines or Vietnam, they're overseas. In the Philippines, their average wage per hour is like $4.62. So
Yep.
it's a lot less than here. So, I mean, if you bring them on, you're paying them $5 an hour. That's a huge savings for you versus hiring someone in the States that can do it for, 18 to 24 is the average kind of admin wage. There's a huge cost savings to outsourcing it. However, they have a lot of storms in the Philippines and
Yeah, I
Vietnam.
know.
And
I know this
sometimes
firsthand. Yeah.
their internet is out and they don't communicate with you for 4 hours. This happened with me for last week with my virtual assistant. He was just gone. And I'm like, where is he? And I hired him through a company called Outsourcing.
Yep.
And he's great. Love him. Fantastic. Really impressed with that company, by the way. They have a great training program to teach you how to train him, how to brief him on new projects, like what they can do for you. It's great. Anyways, look into it. So if you have someone that lives in the States that works for you, you know that you're going to be able to call them on the phone and talk to them about issues that you have. And you're not reliant on the internet to communicate with them. In that sense, it's really nice. There's also not a language barrier. However, my guy speaks great English. He understands everything. The first one that I hired on was my admin, and she was a portrait photographer. So she had experience in Photoshop, which is very important, right? Because I'm going to need them to potentially Photoshop out a garbage can or, do some masking and desaturation and, some cloning and the healing brush and all that stuff. So it's important that they understand Photoshop. So that would be my first question. Do you know how to use Photoshop and how good are you? You
Yeah.
can teach it, but I wouldn't go there. Just hire someone that knows how to use it. If you're looking for someone, Fiverr is a good place to find people. So I would encourage you to get on Fiverr, post like a Facebook post or LinkedIn, all these places. You can even put a post on your social media and say, I'm looking to hire on someone that can help me with my morning work, expanding my team, and people will see
And
that. Your clients will see it and be like, wow, they're growing. That's great. Good for you. People will congratulate you. So it's kind of a win-win.
what are some of so can they kind of do the same if you had a US admin versus someone in the Vietnam or Philippines doing stuff for you? What are the trade-offs from what you've found that they successfully can accomplish? Because there's a language barrier too. Have you found it's about the same? They can do the same tasks, or there really is a big difference?
No, I think they can do the same tasks. The only problem is if I tell my virtual assistant overseas to email the client and let them know the Matterport is not done processing, please upload it later. He says, okay, what do I write? And I'm like, that's what I just said. Like that. You have to write out exactly what you want written in the email because it's a second language to them. So,
Yep.
if I were to tell my admin that who lives in Washington, she'd be like, okay, no problem. And she'd email it and make it sweet. Like it wouldn't just be so blunt. She'd be like, it's coming soon. Have a great day. We'll send, she'll add a little something in there that's a little more of that personal touch. So where he won't, he's very like straight to the point.
So you maybe have to have your ducks in a row a little bit more with some more resources for them and templated things maybe that you could easily give to them and so they could use as resources maybe just to make sure that some of that gets accomplished appropriately, maybe.
Yes. But let me tell you a little bit about outsourced doers. So my doer was, I told them what I needed in my business, and I explained kind of where I'm going and what I'm doing. And so they said, okay, we will find one that's tailored for your business. So
Okay.
my doer is a graphic designer. He knows Photoshop. He knows Premiere. He knows basic video editing techniques and skills.
Cool.
So he can do basic videos. And he can create basic like landing pages for create websites and stuff for me. And those were important things for me. I had to make sure that he could do that. So they kind of tailored it around my needs, which is awesome. And he's done great. He's done everything. He hasn't edited a video for me yet, and he hasn't created a website or landing page, but he has created, like, he creates our graphics for our podcast.
That's right.
Thumbnails on our YouTube.
Yeah. So, and those are cool. I like what he's doing with those. That's awesome.
And then the graphics on our social media as well. If you haven't been to our social media page on Instagram and Facebook, go check us out. Shooting the Shit with Rachael and Neil Young. Little plug there. But yeah, the graphics on there, he's created those as well. Yeah.
Now, is he the person that manages your uploading your files to your clients and receiving them from your editors and stuff as well, or is that someone else that does that?
So I have my admin doing that right now. She lives in Washington, and I'm training. I need a backup because she goes on vacation. Lucky her. She goes on a lot of vacations. I'm like jealous. I'm like, where are you going now? Oh, Costa Rica. I'm like, oh my gosh, can I be you?
Yeah, right. Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, so she's gone, and sometimes she can only work, and she has a 10 a.m. cutoff time because she has a shoot because she's a portrait photographer, which I respect that, and I'm like, no problem. So my problem was I need a backup person because on Mondays, sometimes we have 15 shoots on Mondays and Tuesdays. So that's a lot to upload. And I promise my clients their photos back by noon the following day. So, we get photos back by like usually 8 a.m. the next morning. And then it's, uploading 15 jobs. That's 3 or 4 hours of work. So it's cutting it close. So I thought, okay, if I can hire on this virtual assistant who can help her with the load, that would be very helpful. So that's what I did.
Yeah, and he can also help out if you had a video that came back edited and there was no time to send it back. He could do a little tweak or something to it and then get it out as well. And that's why he can do the Premiere and the photo editing.
Exactly. Cool. Like those, at the end of our videos, we have a little branded tile for our agents that says their name and their phone number and the brokerage that they work for. And so sometimes we don't have those created. So I'll just tell him, if you don't see it on the video, please go create one and add it to the end of the video, and my admin does that now too, which is great. So he's trained to do that as well. I think my biggest advice to you would be is don't wait till you're really stressed and overworked to hire somebody on to help you, because this business you'll be working 12 to 15 hour days easily. So you get up at 5 or 6 to take care of admin work, send jobs off, and then you go shoot all day, come home at 5 or 6, you're uploading for an hour, scheduling clients for 30 minutes, responding to emails somewhere in between all of that. And before you know it, it's 8:30 at night and you haven't eaten dinner, and your spouse is like, are you done working yet? That's
exactly.
That's where I got. And I was like, I need help. I cannot do this anymore. I'm not working out. I don't have time for myself. My kids are suffering. I'm suffering. I'm like, this isn't fair. So that's when I realized, but I waited too long. I should have done it 4 years ago, honestly.
I'm already feeling the pain on that a little bit, and that's why I'm asking about it, is because I'm thinking, I'd love to get that off my plate. And the more and more you get busier and busier, then the more it's going to be a real problem. And then, it would stink to have to figure out in the thick of it for sure.
Right. And outsourced doers is pretty expensive, honestly. It's not really an admin position for just uploading. It would be if you needed someone for a lot more tasks. I have him from 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. It's I can't even keep him busy right now. I'm like, what am I going to have him do today? Oh my gosh. So if you have any work, Neil, send it my way. I'll have him do it.
Perfect. Let me just grab my list.
Yeah, he could upload for you. You could just pay me $20 an hour to have him upload for you.
Well, honestly, that's not a dumb idea. I like it. You've already done all the leeway work on all that, found the right person. Now I just got to outsource to you. So, okay, my next question for the boss. She's the boss. Ask a boss. She's a boss. She's a boss. Rachael. So if we're growing a team now, so let's say now you've got an admin, now you got somebody who does is either an individual does editing for you, or you might have a team does editing for you, you might have multiple people editing for you, maybe got a team member that works with you, and maybe you're now sharing some of these resources. They're uploading to Google Drive, or they're somebody posting to your social media, all kinds of things I can think of, but I'm starting to think about, what should I be doing for accessing these different platforms that maybe I share. And one of the things I've heard about, but I haven't had any firsthand experience, is some of these like password managers that are encrypted and protect your passwords. And I'm wondering, are you using one of those? And then my next thing is, I don't know, what do you recommend for that scenario, I guess, is part of it. And then the other thing is my other big concern is, if I give somebody access to this stuff, I don't want them using, right now I'm using passwords that make sense for me. So I'd have to either change all of those. And then if you have one of these tools, my other big fear about it is what if somebody isn't working out for whatever reason? Is there a way to quickly sort of pull the cord with one button so they can no longer access and mess with your stuff? That would be my other concern.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And yes, there is. So I use 1Password.
Okay.
1Password.
And that's a password, one of those password
manager. Yeah, you download it on your computer and it gives you this crazy long, ridiculous password for everything. And it just automatically pops up when you log in. Like, I don't know the passwords to any of my accounts anymore. I have it on all my devices, so it works on everything. And then there's an option to create another user. And you can give them access to certain vaults, so I can create a whole work section. That's all of my work passwords. And I can add those in. So then they have access they have their own password will come up. It'll pop up, but they won't actually see the password. So I will share it with them, basically say, okay, here's your workspace. I don't know what it's called. I just set this up like 2 weeks ago. So I can set them up as a user, give them permission to use the password for certain websites, right? That I tag as my business or whatever. One's for my virtual assistant, right? I can tag them all and then give him access. And when he downloads the password manager on his computer and then he goes in and clicks on it to log in and he can't see it. It's all encrypted and just little dots, right? So it's secure. And he never actually knows my password. It just automatically pops up for him. And if he gets fired, you just shut off his permissions and he no longer can get into your accounts.
That's cool.
So another thing that I do, so like my Matterport account is 1Password for my whole team. And I just created a password for the business that's easy that we can all remember for Matterport. So I'm not using 1Password for all my shooters. I'm like, who's going to hack my Matterport? If my shooters hack my Matterport, we got some bigger problems, So that just makes it easy. And I change it every once in a while, just switch it up. And if someone leaves the team, I'll change it. So that keeps it secure.
What are some of the main things you're using 1Password for?
My HD Photo Hub account for myself, my Facebook and Instagram login, because my VA has access to that because he posts our social posts for us. I write them and then he posts and schedules it. I think that's it for now, honestly. I just set it up. I haven't really gotten too far into it. I'm having a hard time myself using it because I'm a little worried. Like, what if I forget my phrase or my key phrase, or I don't know. I have it written down in a couple places, but it's a little, I don't know. It feels weird to give up that control of knowing what my password is. I need to use it though, because I've been getting like alerts like your password has been compromised. I'm like, oh great, that's the one that I've used on multiple accounts. It's like, all right. So I need to.
And I think you get in bad habits, right? Of you start having all these platforms and you can never remember any of them. So you got two choices. Either you're writing it down somewhere in your home or something on a, like it's, 1910, or you're starting to cheat and make them all the same, which is bad to do too, for security reasons, that one gets hacked and all your stuff's hacked, so I'm something I think I'm going to look into as well. Sounds good that it's all encrypted and all that. And I like that they do have those alerts that if it looks like a password you use has been compromised, that they give you a kind of alert about it or whatever. So that's cool.
Another platform that I use is Google Drive, and I love Google Drive. So I set up folders. So I have a folder for, I have a guy that's helping me set up systems and implement like 17 hats for delivering contracts and collecting money for portrait work, right? I don't use HD Photo Hub for my portraits.
Right.
I use Shootproof to deliver images, and then I use Wix for my invoicing. But I'm rebranding and getting a new website, so I no longer can invoice through Wix because that site is going to shut down. So I found 17 hats, and I've always thought it looked cool. So I'm using that. So he's helping me set all that up. He's also helping me set up Slack, which is going to help our team stay organized with projects. but he has his own folder within the Google Drive that I've set up for him. And it's a shared folder with him. And we create folders within folders within folders of every project that we're doing. And I just share it with him. And anybody else who's in on that project, I will share that folder with that person. So it's a very easy platform to use with a team because you can share documents and folders and they have full access. Then you can just remove them. You can make them just a viewer or an editor.
Yeah.
So they can have editing capabilities or not. It's up to you. But it's great. It's been really helpful to keep my business organized. So I'd highly recommend getting in there and just setting up, set up a business section or like an HR section, set up, policies and procedures, set up a few things that'll kind of, help you get going.
One of the things I was thinking about for the password stuff is right now, one of the problems I have is I have an editor and he always wants new music from me. And I don't have the time to go digging through. Normally I've given him a folder with a bunch of songs that I think are good, but he's tired of using the same songs. He's like, hey, could you just get me a few more songs? And so I just don't want to go weed through Epidemic Sound. So I really want to I want to give him the password,
You use Epidemic Sound? So do I. Let's trade titles of songs and let's go get them ourselves. Because I have like probably 40 songs banked up that I need to go download.
Okay.
I never download songs because it's such a pain. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I wanted to just give him go log in and do it. But then I'm always a little wary too. Will he pick good songs? But I don't know. But anyway, he seems like he has a good taste in songs. So maybe it'd be fine. Maybe I could at least say, hey, go pick a bunch. And then I'll listen to those and tell if any of them are terrible and just pull those out. You know what I mean? That might be the way to go about it. You use words in your songs, I noticed.
In my reels. Sometimes.
No. Oh, is it just a reel? It was so you don't leave the vocals in your ones you give to your clients.
I just feel like it's too specific when there's vocals.
Yeah.
What if they don't like the message that's being said?
Or what if you didn't know what it said? You thought it said something else, and then you find out later it's totally inappropriate. Yeah, so I don't do that either. But I thought I heard it was in the real format though. I just assumed you had posted it as it was delivered, but you didn't. Okay. I was like, it's cool. I'm like, well, maybe I should do some words. I don't know, but I'm always afraid. And the reason I bring it up is this last edit. He pulled one of the new songs that I quickly went and grabbed, and I didn't realize about a third of the way in they added a few words, and I couldn't even tell what he was saying. I'm like, we got to get that out of there. I don't know what he's saying. We can't leave that question mark in the middle of this thing. So cool. I don't know. Those are some questions I had just lingering, and I'm glad that I have this fantastic resource that we can ask Rachael, and hopefully it helps everybody else out that we have this opportunity to ask a boss. She's the boss.
And if you guys have questions that you want to ask me, I think we're going to do this segment, every 6 or so episodes. So feel free to write a comment below, write a comment on social media with any questions that you guys have for me or Neil. We would love to incorporate it. Maybe we'll give you a shout out as well, so you can get some more followers. It'd be kind of a fun way to grow and collaborate with other creatives.
Yeah, love to hear questions people have for sure. That'd be awesome. And thank you, Rachael. Always a wealth of knowledge.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for coming with great questions.
Yeah, of course. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for tuning into Shooting
the Shit with Rachael
and Neil Young.
We've gotten so good at that, Neil. All right. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Have a good one.